I just thought I'd juxtapose a couple of images here. This first one is from the Real News, and this one was published on May the 11th. There's an updated one that was published more recently on May the 14th. And Norman Finkelstein expresses his dismay, really, which is, I fully empathise with that dismay because I feel it myself regularly, is the seeming lack of public concern, public displays of solidarity with the Palestinian people. Because, you know, and again, anybody who understands the situation in Palestine agrees completely with Norman Finkelstein when he says these people, they're not attacking a border. They are actually demanding their rights not to be confined to a concentration camp, because that is what Palestinian life is actually reduced to. People are living in a series of concentration camps surrounded by Israeli military. And, you know, they need to get permits to get from one Palestinian concentration camp to another Palestinian concentration camp. You know, these are the kind of things, that is what is going on, and that it is despicable. I've found it difficult to live with from childhood. There's things in this world that have impacted me from childhood and I've never ever been able to recover from, and to my horror, everything's just got worse and worse. There was a point where I did believe things would get better, up until about the 1980s when Thatcher came. But even then I thought, oh yeah, well, people are going to turn this around. But no, they didn't. They just all went totally with it. And I think it was in the 80s that I did lose hope, really, for humanity. And, well, I started to believe there must be something wrong with me, because nobody took anything that I said seriously. You know, I felt a lone voice out there in the void, you know, surrounded by people who were like, well, you know, I've just made a lot of money off Margaret Thatcher, she's let me buy, you know, I'm the first homeowner in our family. It's like, no, but you're not really the first homeowner in your family, are you? You are actually the first person that's ever managed to accumulate a huge debt. You've been granted the opportunity to repay a huge debt at massive amounts of interest. I mean, to me, none of it made any sense, you know. It just didn't make sense. And then as time went on, you know, you're watching people getting £100,000 more loans, mortgage, £100,000 mortgage. I mean, just think about that. But this people happily took it on, and for some reason they believed that meant that they owned their own house. When, as far as I was aware, they were just renting it off a bank. You know, I never saw any point in buying a house unless you could put at least a substantial sum down yourself at the start. But these things apparently are normal, and this is normal. What's happening in Gaza? It's all quite normal to put people into concentration camps and then shoot them and kill. You know, the death tolls climbing. As far as I'm aware at this point, it's reached 50. 6 children killed today. A man who'd lost his legs through Israeli atrocity, now today lost his life. We have our whore parliament, who basically talks about, oh, we've got to end the violence on both sides. Really? Really what? People armed with stones and the ability to burn a tyre? Against a full-on military operation, such as Israel. And they make very loud noises about Iran's nuclear capability, but they still will not say a word about their own nuclear capability, where are the weapons inspectors? Because this nation of Israel is ruled by despot leaders who are bloodthirsty savages. They're anti-Christian, they're anti-Muslim, they're anti-human, and they are certainly anti-Judaic. They are actually insane. And clearly, the only God that they worship is a devil, a criminal that supports their criminal activities, that justifies their criminal philosophies, their criminal, racist, sexist, crap shite, because that's what it is. You know, let's not beat about the bush here. Let's understand, the bush is burning, the bush is on fire. And in that fire there's a voice saying, I am. And that voice is humanity. And that is what is being wasted by this evil consciousness, which Zionists represent as supreme leaders, you know, because we know that this criminal consciousness is something, it isn't something unique to the Judaic faith. It exists in every society, and that's why we have the law. The law is there to prevent this criminal consciousness from ever achieving the kind of powers that it's achieved in Israel, that it's achieved in America, that it's achieved in Britain, that it's achieved all over the world, because people have been reluctant to stand up to it, because they prefer an easy, quiet life. But you see, there's no such thing as an easy, quiet life in ignorance, because what the parents of today are refusing to address, then basically they're dumping it onto their children. They're saying to their children, oh well, you know, you'll sort all that out, won't you, loves? Yeah, you'll pay this criminal debt off, because, you know, we aren't going to stand up to the bankers and tell them to get lost with their criminal, unrepayable, eternal debt that they want to dump on you children, and your children, and your children's children. We'll let you stand up against all their evil plans of Agenda 21 and their New World Order garbage. You'll deal with all that, won't you, kids, eh? What kind of people? What are we as a species? I don't know. British Parliament, you disgust me. I hold you in contempt. I hold you in contempt. Aside from the one or two who've had the courage to openly speak out against what Israel has done and what Israel is doing to the people of Palestine. You know, the fact is that this Zionist philosophy is a usurpation of Judaic faith. it is, I mean, they can't even call themselves Zionists because they're the totally opposite of everything that Zion represents. I mean, if you read Isaiah, you understand, in no uncertain terms, Zion is the female intelligence and Jerusalem is the female heart. Because a city traditionally reflected the condition of the female, okay, the feminine, of its warmth, its giving, its hospitality. What can the city provide? The city is the heart of humanity. The heart of humanity is, of course, with our mother, first and foremost. And the heart of man, if he's not with the mother, then he's not a father. There is no patriarchy where there's no respect for matriarchy. And that's why these powers had to denigrate the matriarchy in order to topple the patriarchy, in order to establish an oligarchy that will call itself a Zionist or a Wahhabi Muslim or whatever. An atheist even, a communist. It can call itself what it likes. It will call itself anything, and it will always feed on hate and division and judgments against people for things that people have no control over, like, for example, the colour of their skin or their gender. So this is the situation that I've had to live with in this world, along with the suffering of the African people, the Indian people. Just reading through history, I studied history, the horror. It's like, yeah, Babylon's cup is full of filth. And I didn't stick around in there for the dregs of it. I experienced, I lived the dregs of it as a child growing up in Britain. Apparently one of the most civilised, developed nations in the world. Can't provide justice for the children. Actually protect paedophiles. That's what this country does, Britain. Loves its paedophiles. Or is it that Britain loves its paedophiles? Or is it that the bankers like paedophiles and everybody just jumps to the tune of the bankers' flute? So this is what's going on in Gaza, and at the same time, this is what's going on. I mean, for goodness sake, just look at them. And I'll just let you listen to the music in the background. What is that about? They're all sat around ceremony to open US Embassy in Jerusalem. Look at all these people.
Are about to be.
So that is the two worlds, okay? That's the two worlds going on. So one world is this is the world for one group of people, on the foundation that they are the native inhabitants of the whole land, and they're Muslim natives, okay? And these are your European invaders. Well, Jesus, because a lot of these, especially these with the red hats, right, they would call themselves Christians. Okay. Well, you know, Jesus said, give unto others as you would give unto yourself. So I see you're all very well dressed. You've got a nice little setup here. It looks like a reasonably peaceful kind of a place. Okay. Got a nice little setup here, haven't you? So, you know, what have these got? What have they got? They haven't even got their human rights of dignity and respect that Israel cannot grant these people. Their human rights, refers to them continually as subhuman, is raising their own children, Israeli children being raised to consider human beings, their fellow human beings, the native inhabitants of their land. Israeli children are being brought up to consider these people as animals. Okay? Well, here are the animals, okay? The savages in suits with their gangsters, moles, or Babylon bitches. And people might think, oh, I'm being really insulting. But no, they're she-wolves. This is wolf pack. These all come from the wolf pack consciousness. Okay, that is what they are. They're wolves. They're wolves in sheep's clothing. They are savages. The females are bitches. Okay? And the males, they're all, oh yeah, they'll be pally on the surface, but they're always biting, wanting to be top dog. Right? That's the majority of them. Because that's their mentality. They are a wolf pack. Understand this, they come directly from ancient Rome. That's what ancient Rome was built on. Their social structure was built on the same structure as a wolf pack. No power or respect given to females, who are the lowest of the wolf pack. Pups, even lower. You know, males might decide to kill a pup. You know, because that's your wolf pack. So these are wolves in sheep's clothing. Jesus has invited them to be human, has offered them forgiveness if they're prepared to abandon their inhumane way of living and life perspective, and they're prepared to get with universal reality and our true humanity. They're prepared to get in touch with their inner child. Jesus has offered them all forgiveness. There's a chance for them to be a human being. So it's not like they've not got a choice. It's not like anybody's holding a gun at their head. But these very silly people do not realise that the gun that they hold at the people of Gaza, the guns that they hold at their head, is the same gun that will kill themselves and their own children. Because that mentality is self-destructive. You will destroy yourself. All you people here, all these people, they will destroy themselves. They have no vision, they have no imagination, they have no capacity of understanding or forgiveness. They are just full of judgment, because all of those judgments are what justifies their so-called right to be occupying the land of Palestine and to be treating the native inhabitants with such brutality and contempt. And because of that, the universal intelligence holds all of these people in contempt. And the universe intelligence looks upon these people. The universe doesn't see, oh, lovely dressed ladies and men, and oh, look how nice she's done her hair, and oh, look at the lovely jewellery, or oh, doesn't it all look so civilised and nice. The universe looks on this as an unholy rabble. Okay, because that is exactly what it is. An unholy rabble. And this universal intelligence looks on these people with respect and compassion and kindness, and these are actually a holy group of people. They are, their demands are holy. They are demanding their rights under universal law to be treated as human beings, to be able to raise their children not in the dirt, in dignity and respect. These have been kept where the people's condition of their material condition here, okay, what you see here is actually where their heads are at. That is where they're at. They are all heathen. They're heathen. Because only heathen could do that to other human beings and justify it on basically racist grounds, on grounds of racism. To do it through genocide. But then, you know, it's not surprising that America supports them, because, let's face it, America was established in pretty much the same way. And Britain, it's not surprising that British aristocracy and elite have supported Israel, because, you know, the British Empire was founded in very much the same way. And in fact, the British people themselves have been subjugated in the very same way. Okay, so all I can say is that I am just so sick of it. I'm so sick of it. The world is sick of it. I regret bringing a child into this world, because I don't think that this world deserves my child. Okay, and I am pleased that I only brought one child into this world. I would have liked to have had a lot of children, but I just couldn't. In the middle of my pregnancy with my son, I suddenly was just like, what on earth am I doing? Bringing a child into this evil, disgusting, filthy world. For all now I know, I could be delivering another criminal into the world. What? Because I've got no control. This world has got control. This world will dictate what he thinks. He's not going to listen to me. I mean, I'm very fortunate that my son has grown up into such a lovely person, and, you know, very talented, hard-working individual. But yeah, he was distanced from me. He was persuaded that I'm mad, you know. And, you know, one thing that I will say with regards to Norman Finkelstein, okay, I did write to him a few years ago, and he was one of the very, very few people at that time who wrote back to me. And I was deeply touched, because I thought, you know, he's such a busy man, and I know that he struggles. He does struggle to keep going in this world. It is a struggle. If you're aware and you have compassion, it is a struggle. It is like walking through mud, trying to just get through each day in this world, because nothing really comforts you. There is no comfort. And yeah, I was very deeply touched that he took time, and he did actually respond to me. And he's a Jewish man. And I do advise people, you know, check out Finkelstein. He talks absolute you know, universal intelligence just exudes from his being, okay? And Jewish people need to listen to him. And I've been speaking out to true Jews, asking them to please embrace Jesus now, true Torah Jews, because let's face it, Jesus is a Jew. It's about time you updated your Torah, because time has proved him absolutely correct. He was speaking out on behalf of human rights of Jewish people all those centuries ago, and in doing so, the usurer consciousness that was occupying Israel at that time did perceive him as a threat, and he was attacked, and he was persecuted, and he was oppressed, and Christians, Jews that followed Jesus, were oppressed. And then Jesus, that concept of Christianity, was stolen from the Jews and usurped by Rome, who then used it to continue its dominance over the world and just basically fitted its own evil interpretations of life, its wolf-pack interpretations, and just loosely slapped them into Christianity. So, you know, women still have no rights, children are considered inferior, and you can still have slaves. That's basically it. And Judaism itself was then usurped by the usurers, who decided to call themselves Zionists. True Zionists are Rastafarian. That's the fact of it. True Zionists are Rastafarian. These people calling themselves Zionists, who are running the World Bank, they're not even Zionists. Even that's a lie. You know, they are a double negative, because they're pretending to be Jews. They're not Jews, and they're also even calling themselves Zionists, and they're not even Zionists. So this has to end. This needs to end. It will end when we make it stop. When we, in the so-called developed, civilised nations, where apparently we've got human rights, where apparently we can mass demonstrate and not get shot. So where are they then? People can't even stand up for their own children's rights in Britain. It's just, honestly, how can it be? How can it be? You know, and when we have the knowledge that we have, when we know that the universe is with us, the universal intelligence, when we know that we're universal beings, how can it be that we will just put up with this? Just live with it. And I don't know how people can forget it. How can we forget it? It's always there. It's always there. When you walk into the supermarket and you see the stuff on the shelves, and you think about the people that grow this stuff for $1 a day or $2 a day. But these Western nations seem to think, yeah, that's alright. This antiquated crap that tells us, yeah, we can profit from exploitation because we're not guilty. You know, we just received the stolen goods. We just received the slave-produced goods. We pay good money for it. We work hard for that money. Really, do we? Do we work that hard? And actually, yes, we do. And that's absolutely the disgusting thing about it, isn't it? That we work hard in order to be fed slave-produced products. But it's very, very hard work just to survive in a place like Gaza. And And I'm sorry, it is abominable, and it is about time that Britain, if British Parliament wants to keep standing, okay, you Parliament are going to need now to demand sanctions against Israel, please, because I want to know how this country can support Israel and yet still issue sanctions against a country like Cuba. Okay, I want to know that. I don't know how it is possible to support Israel and yet not support Cuba. It's hypocrisy beyond belief, and from a so-called Christian, apparently intelligent Parliament. It is... You are despicable, Parliament, British Parliament. You're despicable, disgusting, whore, filth. Every single MP that cannot stand up and speak out against this blatant abuse that has been inflicted on the Palestinian people by Israel. And it is about time that the Israeli people themselves, and I know that there's a large portion of them, do not support the Zionist government actions. But the people of Israel, you do need to understand that, you know, when I explain to you that when Jah look upon these faces, is Jah, she sees heathen, right? Understand where you are standing in the universal golden light intelligence. You are heathen, okay? As you've judged, now you are being judged, because you've profited so much from judging people as heathen. On what grounds? Where is your intelligence? What kind of intelligence is operating in Israel that has turned the whole place into a living hell, where people on both sides are living in fear and terror? And that is why, when people understand that, it's like, well, you don't want to be a heathen. Stop being a heathen then. Get human. Make amends. Show remorse. Show repentance. Turn Israel and Palestine into a beautiful nation that is a beacon to the world. Otherwise, face the wrath that is coming to you. And I do fear for the people, because although they have been indoctrinated to be savages, unfortunately at the very end, that's when they'll realise how human they are, and it will be too late then. So, you know, there is a need for an amnesty, there's a need for forgiveness, there's a need for compassion and kindness, and Jesus is the unifying factor. Muslims accept Jesus. It's about time that true Jews accepted Jesus now, because like I say, he was stolen, he was turned into this Luciferian cult figure for these mad people who thought that they could play around with God's word and God's people. But no, sorry. Your days are over. The writing's on the wall, and as one who has witnessed an event of universal light being, I can explain with, in no uncertain terms, the lot of all these people sat here are heathen. Every British MP, British Parliament is heathen, okay? It's heathen, because they cannot stand up for human rights. They cannot stand up for universal law. They have decided that a child is a minor human being. A child is unimportant, a lesser, minor human being. That is fundamentally etched into every one of their heads, and that is why they can just kill children, the Palestinian children, so easily. And British Parliament the same. Can bomb Iraq, Syria. Oh, there's been some children died. Yeah, sorry, yeah. Sorry. The party's over. Reality is going to hit.